Hey guys, Sharpend here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make funky metal chord synths. They sound something like this. Okay, so I would consider this synth to be like the modern evolution of the future bass LFO chords, but instead of being very bright and having a lot of high frequencies, we're trading them into something more mellow and without any high frequencies at all. It sort of gives more of an R&B, a wah guitar sort of vibe instead. So let's see how I made these. So I'm going to start by disabling any effects, and I made these using Serum. So the patch without any effects sounds like this. And what I did is I took two wavetables. So the first one has a lot of overtones. It sounds kind of like an organ. And the second one has a lot of high frequencies. The overtone also has a few unison voices, and I'm using an LFO to modulate the volume to create a rhythmic pattern. Now, for this song, I found that I needed two rhythmic patterns, so I copied the exact same patch, just with a different rhythmic pattern in an LFO. So different chords get different rhythms. And together that makes the chord patch here. So now let's see what else I've made. So there's a low pass filter here, and I'm using the LFO to open up its cutoff. The resonance is all the way up, there's a bit of drive, and there's the scream function that is also being modulated. It sort of changes the resonant peak, and all of this is only happening on oscillator A. So oscillator B stays exactly the same. But in order to get that mellow sound that we're after, I'm using another filter at the end, a low pass filter, and I'm using the exact same LFO to modulate it again with some resonance. In addition to that, I'm also adding a bit of chorus to give it some extra width. And the exact same patch is the second rhythm. It's the exact same thing, just with different rhythm in the LFO. So in addition to that, I've also layered a sub-bass synth. Let's take a listen. So as you can see, it has the exact same rhythm in the LFO. I'm using the sub that has a bit of harmonics, like this is the original sub, and this is the harmonics one. So as you can see, it has a bit of extra harmonics, and that helps it stand out in the mix a bit more. And I'm using the LFO to modulate its volume to create the same rhythmic pattern as the chord synth. So together we get this. But that still wasn't mellow enough for my taste, so I added OTT. And I know OTT usually makes things have a lot more high frequencies, but in this case I just used the high frequency knob all the way off, so we actually get a more mellow sound. Here's how it would sound normally with an OTT. And I didn't want that, so once I removed it, it actually sort of boosted all of the resonance and all of that wah sound that I love. In addition to that, I've added a channel strip preamp sort of plugin just to give it an extra color. It's the most subtle thing ever, but I found it to sound good on this thing. And I've also added a spring reverb that we only hear in the chorus. So at the verses, it's a very dry sound. And in the chorus, we have a tiny bit of spring reverb. This is just to give it a tiny bit of width and some room in the chorus to make it pop out a bit more. And also the spring type of reverb has a sort of like a wah resonant sound of its own. So together I think they blend really well. And I've also used it in like the ending of the second chorus to transition into the bridge. And I created that very like delayed sound by just pitching down the spring impulse response. And that makes it sound more like a delay, because it becomes so slow that it starts convoluting the chords in a delayed fashion. Like so. So that is pretty much it for that synth. And I think my main tip with working with synths like this is to make sure that you give them the appropriate space. So in my case, I just used very minimalistic drums to give it a lot of space to shine. And the chorus itself also has pretty minimalistic drums as well for that exact same purpose. That way the listener can still hear the sub bass and can hear the mellow synth without it feeling too overpowered. And in the second chorus, I replaced the sub bass synth, which is not there anymore. I replaced it with like a bass guitar. So that took a bit of adjusting and EQing to find the right balance. But again, once you give some room in the drums and in the entire track, you can really hear these synths and they can really shine on their own, almost without any accompaniment at all. So that's pretty much it, and I hope you like this video, and I'll see you on the next one. For more content, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, and check out my playlists on the channel for other tutorials, track breakdowns, and my music as well.